Hello, seventh graders. Happy Monday. We're going to go ahead and jump right on in. You have a short week here. I know that you have quite a few tests on Wednesday, which is why I opted to schedule this for Tuesday. Then you can kind of shift your focus more or less and then just have some free time on Wednesday. So here we go. I need you to flip to your Gold Rush notes, please. At this time, Mrs. Hackle is going to come around and check just for a completion grade out of 10. I want you to go all the way to question 8, I think it is. Yep, how did the gold rush change California? So we're going to actually sit and just focus in on environment here is what we're looking at. This is actually a test question. I'll show you right now. I ask for you to list 3 ways that the California gold rush impacted the environment. So looking at your notes here, some of the things that you should have had were hillsides were stripped of trees, rivers were dammed or clogged. You see the hydraulic mining clog rivers, and the hydraulic mining will bury acres of good farmland under rocky sludge. If you just talk about, I suppose I could make this another one altogether. Again, burying acres of good farmland under rocky sludge. If you talked about towns popping up, that's fine. But if you say that, oh, we create these towns, you should talk about that to create the towns, we use the local natural resources, because we're talking about how it impacted the environment, what it did. And the thing was, is that it didn't necessarily leave a positive impact. If you just write down deplete natural resources, that's fine too. You could even specifically just talk about gold. So there's kind of 6 key things that you could have had in your notes. I'll just leave them up on the board. If somebody wants to hit pause so you can get those copied down too, that's fine. Otherwise, Mrs. Hackle can pull this up later and just hit pause and leave it up on the board for you. Otherwise, I have it shared with her. She can pull that up too. All right. So California Gold Rush. I'm hoping that you learned a thing or two. It's definitely interesting. I think you maybe caught a little bit of the California Gold Rush in your last episode of America, the Story of Us. If not, you will get more of that as we look at the next episode after Thanksgiving break. Some of that should appear in there as well. So, all that said, you have a test tomorrow. All right. So I want to go ahead and peek at the test again. I know I showed this to you at one point last week. So Learning Target 3.2 is about geography. Again, I'm asking you questions. They're short response. I know some of you don't like writing, and that's okay. You don't have to like it. We just need to try to get through it. And so as you start preparing for not just the next part of 7th grade, but as we look at 8th grade in high school, you're going to have questions like this as well. Do not leave anything blank. If you leave it blank, you'll get just a big old 0. If you try, even if it's wrong, at least I'll give you a 5 for trying. Again, don't leave anything blank. So I'm asking you to list 3 ways that the California Gold Rush impacted the environment. We had a list of 5 or 6 that I just showed you. Again, Mrs. Hackle can pull those up when the lecture is done. And then geographically speaking, why did we buy the Gadsden Purchase from Mexico? The answer to this one, to get around the Rocky Mountains. Expansion. I have a variety of multiple choice questions for you. What is Manifest Destiny? Who do we buy the Louisiana Purchase from? Then you have to list 3 reasons for the Louisiana Purchase. You should have this in your notes. You had 5 key reasons, right? You have Lewis and Clark are ready to explore. We gained the Mississippi River and Port of New Orleans. It's cheap, like 3 cents an acre, gain 828,000 square miles, more room for immigrants to settle, things like that. Pick 3. The name of the woman who helped Lewis and Clark. You should have came across this in your research. If not, you're going to have to go back and take a peek. Otherwise, she did appear in that Explorer style song that I know you loved very much. Next, who do we buy Florida from? How did the U.S. acquire the territories of 1783? What started the Mexican-American War? what became the new border of Texas following the war. It's the border that we still have today. And what area of land did the U.S. buy from Mexico, as listed in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo? And then the British cession and Oregon Territory. Why were they given to us? Lastly, you have this quote-unquote essay question. I want you to provide a well-thought-out answer. I don't want you to stress about this concept of an essay. Again, I don't want you to stress about this. So the question that I'm going to have you answer on your test tomorrow is, how did the Native American Removal Acts impact the relationship between Native Americans and European settlers? Now, here's the deal. If you're paying attention, you will find out that you actually answered this in today's bell ringer. And there's a reason why I had you do it. That was just to kind of get you started. So I'm hoping that you were able to get roughly 5 sentences for your bell ringer, and you can kind of use that and tweak it and apply it as best as you can. What is Mrs. L looking for? On the test, here's the deal. If I'm looking for a well thought out answer, I would suggest writing roughly 6 sentences. I totally think that this is something that you could write 10 or more sentences about if you have a lot to say. Going back in and looking at different things, you should have your 5 W's filled out. You have perspectives. I would say 90% of students will answer this that it impacted the relationship in a negative way, right? It wasn't necessarily beneficial or positive. And there are some kids who think that it didn't hurt it at all, and that's fine. Here's the deal, you guys. There's not a wrong answer. It's just wrong if you don't defend it, okay? If you just write down it was bad or it didn't help, period, and that's it, you're not going to pass that essay portion. Again, I'm looking for about a minimum of 6 sentences. And I think if you really try, you shouldn't have an issue. So I guess if I had to answer this, I would say that the Native American Removal Acts negatively impacted the relationship between Native Americans and European settlers. And that would be 1 sentence. It negatively impacted. All right. And I would write it all out. From there, I would say, you could write about how Native Americans were stripped from their homes. They were forced to leave. You could write about how they were herded like cattle, not allowed to take anything. You could talk about how, the Western Europeans thought that, they were doing something good for the Native Americans, or the Native Americans were following them simply to avoid conflict. You can kind of take all of these bullet points that are up on the board right now and turn them into a sentence of some sort, depending on how you want to answer this question. I wish I had an example for you from other years. Usually this is something we practice multiple times in class, and it just, with me being gone this year, it didn't happen. And that's okay. Again, this is not the be all end all for your grade on your test tomorrow, and it's not something I want you to stress about. But I do want you to practice it a few times. The more you try coming up with an answer ahead of time, the easier the test will be tomorrow. All right. So again, you have your bell ringer to start. I'm trying to get you started on thinking about it for your test tomorrow. And then you have time to work on it with your study guide. So when Mrs. Hackle is done, she's going to go ahead and hand out your study guide to you. What I want you to do is go through and truly answer these questions. Because if you look, these are your test questions, right? The first 2 are the first essays. I should probably reword that first one. What is Manifest Destiny? 3 reasons for the Louisiana Purchase. The name of the woman who helped Lewis and Clark. How we acquired the territories of 1783. Again, it was in my lecture, what war happened that allowed us to gain those in the end. Every question that I list is on your test, okay? Every single one. And then lastly, how did the Native American Removal Acts impact the relationship between Native Americans and European settlers? Here's the deal. This is not, you know that your study guides are not collected for a grade. I want you to practice, I really do want you to practice that essay, because that essay is a 30-year test tomorrow. So if you show up and just think like, oh, I don't need to practice, I'm going to wing it and just do what I can, it's not going to go well for you. At this point, you guys, with your writing, I can genuinely tell when you try. Okay? Again, I don't want you stressing about this essay. I just want you to give it your honest opinion. I want you to put forth your best effort, and you should be totally fine. Here, you know what? Here's what I will do. All right, here's what I will do. Here we go. If you practice your essay and write it down on a lined piece of notebook paper, okay? If you write down your essay on a lined piece of notebook paper and prepare it ahead of time, I will let you use that lined piece of notebook paper with your essay on it for the test tomorrow. So how this works, you will have to turn it in with your test, okay? However, listen carefully. You will still have to copy it onto the test. I won't take the lined piece of paper in place of the test. You will take out a piece of notebook paper this afternoon, tonight, right now, whatever it may be, and you will write down your essay. I would suggest editing it if you want, making sure you have down exactly what you want to say. And you can bring that with you and use it on your test tomorrow. You cannot use your study guide on the test. Again, I will let you prepare the essay ahead of time and bring that with. So when you are supposed to put everything away, if it's been approved, if Mrs. Hackle has peeked at it to make sure that you are not cheating and writing down extra answers for the test, I'll actually have her initial the pieces of paper for me to know that you're not cheating. You can use that on your test. So again, you'll take that piece of paper, copy down what you've prepared onto the test, and then still turn it in with your test. You'll just kind of like fold it in half and place it in between the two stapled pieces of paper. All right. I feel like that's a fair compromise for not being there to help. And again, I don't think any other teacher would let you actually prepare and cheat for a 30-year test. Okay. So again, no being sassy with me on this, because I feel like I'm being pretty fair to you. All right. Mrs. Hackle will have some directions of what this all entails for the test tomorrow if you still have questions. If not, I hope that you have a great week and a really good Thanksgiving, and I will see you soon. All right. Bye, 7th graders.